Hello, we are the co-CEOs of ABB. This is Mohammed, I'm Nicole, Sunny, and Stephen is behind the camera.
Hey.
And we're gonna present on how ABB can drive profitable growth in the next 5 years. So just a quickly reminder of what ABB does. So ABB Limited is a global leader in power and automation technologies, and it's based in Zurich, Switzerland, founded in 1883. It employs over 145,000 people worldwide, and it's present in over 100 countries. ABB business is comprised of 5 divisions: discrete automation and motion, low voltage products, process automation, power products, and power systems. However, ABB stands as the largest supplier of industrial motors and the largest provider of generators to the wind industry, and largest supplier to power grids worldwide. So it has a lead in some of its business lines.
So first of all, I'm going to talk something about the market analysis of ABB. And here you can see, according to ABB's official report, their business can be mainly attributed to 6 main business sectors. Firstly, power generation, followed by power transmission and distribution, mining, railways and automation, oil, gas, and petrochemicals, as well as wind power. Now I'm going to go through briefly about these business sectors. So actually, these 6 business sectors can be attributed to 3 broad business segments: industry, utilities, transport, and infrastructure. So for the industry part, ABB mainly is trying to convey people and services like business solutions to companies who require this kind of services. Secondly, for utilities, in the utilities part, ABB is providing all the infrastructure and facilities related to power generation and power transmission. And for the transport and infrastructure, ABB is providing to transport the oil and gas products from the remote areas in the world to the nearby marketplace. And in the first 2 parts, you can see I make this right. First one is in emerging markets. Second one is renewables. That's what we are going to elaborate more in our later analysis. And for the customer segmentations, we have mainly 4 kinds of customers. First one is government. ABB is providing governments with a full range of services from power generation and transmits the power to the residential houses. For the private power plants and transmission and distribution utilities companies, ABB is providing products like microgrids or data management system. And for the third part is industrial companies. Actually, in this graph, you can see I mentioned a lot of partners, but there are more partners. For example, for Shell, ABB is providing to transport Shell's oil products from remote areas like Africa to the nearby markets. And for Ericsson, ABB is providing data management system for Ericsson, and for Samsung, they're providing microgrids. The total market size. In ABB's 2015 official report, ABB estimates a total market size of $600 billion US dollars. And in 2015, they also estimate the revenue would be $40 billion US dollars. And for this report, you can see this year the power industry will account for 40% of the total revenue, while the automation will account for 60% of the total revenue. And for the customer segments, the utilities accounts for 35%, industry for 45%, and transport for 20%. Okay, so my partner Mohammed will talk more about the trends.
So after this brief about the market dynamics, we would like to talk about 2 main trends in the industry of power and automation that we think is going to open new opportunities, and at the same time it could oppose new challenges. First is the rapid growth in power and automation projects in emerging markets. Energy demand has been increasing steadily, and it is expected to rise 45% in 2020. And most of this growth is driven by emerging markets, more specifically China, India, Eastern Europe, and the Middle East. By 2030, emerging market will account for 70% of the energy demand. Subsequently, the emerging market will lead the investment in electricity infrastructure. As you can see in this graph, the investment in electricity infrastructure in emerging market will reach $6 trillion in 2030, almost 30% only in China, while it's expected to reach 4 trillion in mature markets. ABB has relatively strong presence in emerging markets. Revenues from emerging markets has been fluctuating between 45 to 50%, but we believe that ABB can enhance its position and capitalize on this rapid growth of emerging markets. On the other hand, we also acknowledge that there will be several challenges for any company who wants to tap into this rapid growth of emerging markets. To mention few, one, these countries mostly depend on export-oriented economies, and therefore they are more vulnerable to external economic shocks. For example, in 2008, the global financial crisis, ABB lost 2% of the total orders, mainly from emerging markets. Also, the recent oil price drop has led ABB to cut costs by $1 billion to decrease the expected losses. Second challenge would be the increasing competition, and this is mainly driven by two factors. One, the governments of these countries gives the favorable conditions and preferential treatment to local players, which increased their position and strengthened those companies. And for example, in China now, 6 out of the top 8 companies are local companies. The second factor is the increasing consolidation in the market. In the first 6 months of 2014, the deal value of merger and acquisition in the power and automation industry have reached $58 billion, and that increased the competition level in the industry. Also, there are several other challenges. For example, penetrating the mid segment has been a challenge for international companies. By mid segment, I mean the less quality, cheaper product. This is a very profitable segment that has been dominated by local players. International companies such as GE have tried to penetrate this segment by a program called Good Enough. Siemens also introduced a program called Smart, but local companies have achieved success and dominated this segment because they understand the customer needs better than international companies. Also, there are other several challenges such as the shortage in skilled workforce and the weak enforcement of property rights. Now Nicole is going to present the second trend in the industry.
So other than the trend that Muhammad just talked about, renewables also represent a very valuable opportunity for ABB. Actually, ABB has already started to seize this opportunity by becoming the #1 provider of wind generation technologies worldwide. So right now, as we head into the next 5 years, we have to consider that this trend is going to become more important. So the rising concern for environmental protection and sustainability is just going to keep going up, especially in emerging markets that know that the other types of technologies are not as sustainable in the long run. There's also an increased demand for energy efficiency and higher productivity, and this in turn has caused the automation sector's growth. So the increased demand for energy efficiency is a result of 3 factors that the company has to understand. First of all is the rising awareness of energy costs, the volatility of commodity prices, which was recently experienced with the oil shock. The oil price drop last year, and then tighter environmental regulations. So as you can see, there's a growing global new investment in renewable energy throughout the world. So in the next few years, this is going to be a very important thing. Okay.
Can someone take over the camera?
Sorry.
Hi there, my name is Steven, and we'll be talking about the competitive analysis side. And one company that we decided to compare us with is Siemens Group for several different reasons. The first one is that Siemens Group operates in a lot of the business trends that ABB operates in, like Sunny mentioned, including industry, utilities, and transportation. The second reason is that Siemens has a global reach, which is very similar to ABB's, insofar as they have many domestic partners in both developed and emerging markets, and they generate consistent revenue streams from all these different sectors. And the third one is that Siemens also competes with ABB in most of the sectors, and so we think it's very important to basically compare Siemens with ABB to really create a benchmark to see how we're doing against our peers. And one of the most important trends that we want to see here is the profit change. Over the past several years, a lot of different trends have affected the heavy electrical equipment industry. And as a result, you can see that Siemens, which is portrayed in the orange, has sort of been fluctuating from year to year, while ABB here has been more consistent throughout. Now, the thing that we see here is that ABB has experienced a lower profit change in 2014, but we think that later in the presentation we'll give pretty convincing arguments as to why we can sort of outpace the competition in the long run. And so this is just a summary of basically why we decided to compare Siemens with ABB. We can see here, drawing from Nicole and Mohammed's earlier analysis of two major trends. The first one is emerging markets. And what we can see here is that ABB has really concentrated on the BRICS countries. So Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. So there have been two major projects that have been done recently. The first one is that ABB actually partnered with the Brazilian government to develop a new energy management and monitoring system for their electrical grid. And so what this means is that this system can see how much energy is being lost through transmission, and it can also see which areas need more energy and which areas don't need as much. In addition, you can see that ABB also invested in a $300 million research and development facility in China. China is one of ABB's largest markets in both the power and automation sectors, and so having this R&D facility can better facilitate innovation. Now, for Siemens side, Siemens has also been in the emerging market sector, but we think that ABB so far has been the leader in this portion. So Siemens actually, believe it or not, partnered with Qatar and basically automated the food trolley system in Doha's new Hamad International Airport. Now this may seem like a small thing, but with Doha Airport being one of the busiest airports in the Middle East, having a food trolley system that every single airline uses is pretty significant, and that's one of the major projects that Siemens recently completed. In addition to emerging markets, we also want to talk about the renewable sector, and this is a trend that Nicole touched on earlier. So ABB actually recently became Shell's global supplier of switchgear and motor control centers. This draws back to Sunny's earlier mentioning about how ABB has a number of different domestic and international partners. But Siemens here seems to really be outpacing us, and this is one area of improvement that we want to focus on. The first part is that Siemens actually designed an environmental portfolio that aligns their business activities with sustainability, so that you, instead of having a single bottom line, you have a double bottom line. And the second one is that Siemens has a greater focus on smart grids rather than more efficient grids, which means that they utilize more green technology in order to basically harness energy. And now Sunny is going to mention the goals that we have, and let me switch the cameras. Is this
Yeah.
Right.
It's getting a little dark. So after the brief market analysis and the trend analysis, here we come up with these goals. In 2015, ABB is estimated to achieve a 40 billion revenue, and we strongly believe that by 2020 there will be a 66% revenue growth to $52 billion US. And we also have our milestone here. So for the first year in 2016, we are a little bit conservative. We only estimate a 3% growth due to the shrinking economy and the low oil price. And for the second year in 2017, there will be a 4% growth and 6% growth in 2018. And in 2019 and 2020, we believe there would be both a 7% growth in the total revenue. And in this chart, you can see here is like a brief trend of the revenue growth. And besides the main goal, we also have two subsidiary goals. The first goal is related to emerging markets. And so in 2015 now, the emerging markets accounts for like 45% of the total revenue of ABB in 2015. And in 2020, we believe that this figure will rise to 60%. And also the second subsidiary goal is for developed countries. In 2015, the developed countries accounted for a total like 55% of the total revenue. But in 2020, we estimate it will decline to 40%, which means in developing countries, this figure will rise from 45% to 60%. So the next part, we will deliver our strategies.
So based on the opportunities and the challenges we mentioned in this presentation, we believe that ABB can enhance its presence in emerging markets. Our suggested strategy is to acquire companies in the med segment in China, India, and Eastern Europe to penetrate new customer base. The med segment is the most growing and profitable segment in developing countries. So it will provide a significant growth opportunity for ABB, especially if it is combined with ABB competitive advantage of global sourcing, economies of scale, and its financial strength. Our action plan is first, we want to separate this from ABB brand. ABB brand has been known for its high quality product, and we do not want to change that. We want to create a new subsidiary with a different brand name to avoid and prevent any degrading stigma that might happen of penetrating this segment. Second, we want to identify high growth companies in the above mentioned countries to evaluate the expected synergy levels after the acquisitions. Those companies must focus on low voltage products and process automation, because those two business divisions are the most growing business division in emerging markets. Also, ABB should improve the product scope and capitalize on the acquired companies' channels to market to increase sales. We believe that this acquisitive strategy will lead to several advantages. One, it will boost the product introduction to the market. Second, it will avoid potential problems in emerging markets such as the shortage of a skilled labor force. The second strategy, Nicole will present.
So on the industry level, strategy has to be led by the trend in renewables. First of all, the company has to increase its focus on renewables, especially because not only in developed countries but also in developing countries, they're becoming a very important source of energy. Also, renewables are increasing use for electrical generation, and this also has a lot of implications for the power grid, because now the power grid is being added a lot of new feeding nodes, so the complexity is growing, and ABB has to adapt to that, and it has to increase automation in this sense, in the complexity of the power grid, and cater to customer needs. And also it has to adapt to the new regulatory environment in terms of renewables and electricity generation. So R&D, research and development, will be essential for gaining this industry lead. But also power storage technologies represent a very valuable opportunity for ABB, because what's happening right now is as wind generates power, or sun generates solar power, that type of power has to be used at the moment. It cannot be stored for later on. So in times where there's a lot of wind, a lot of electricity gets generated, but there's not that much demand for electricity, then it gets lost. So by focusing on developing this type of technology that can store energy produced by renewables, ABB can include can cater more to customer needs and get an industry lead. Oh, mhm. And as mentioned before, the electricity value chain is shifting to renewables, and also ABB has to focus on how to adapt to this trend and of new feed-in nodes.
So now I'm going to talk about the competitive strategy, specifically how we can really leverage the two trends that we mentioned earlier, emerging markets and renewable energy. I first want to talk about emerging markets, and I want to concentrate on China because that's one of ABB's largest markets in this sector. As you can see here, ABB as in we really employ a three-pronged approach. The first is that we participated in 19 of China's 24 high voltage direct current projects. Now, none of us are science majors, but the reason why HVDC projects are so important is because they can transmit electricity over long distances through any type of geographic terrain and they can also minimize the amount of electricity that's lost. So us having been participated in 19 of these in the majority of these markets shows that we have a strong footprint in this type of business. The second one is that we participated in the building of the Shiludu-Zhehe, which is the world's longest direct current line. And even though this hasn't become operational yet, we believe that the Chinese government will make this live within the next 3 to 5 years because of its enormous electrical capacity. The third one is that we want to expand. So currently, as you can see, we have a presence in the vast majority of countries, mostly along the eastern seaboard. And what we want to do is that we want to expand to more than 600 cities, and we want to do this not by necessarily having a physical footprint, but by using our e-commerce platform. That way, not only can we take advantage of the latest technology, but we can also save on fixed costs in terms of expanding into new cities. As you can see here, we have an extremely robust and strong presence across all sectors in China, anywhere from engineering, which deals with automation, to low voltage products, which deals with the processing part, and to manufacturing, such as the assembly center in Shanghai. We carry a strong presence along the entire electrical value chain, and this is going to be important because it really takes advantage of some of the electrical changes that are taking place that Nicole mentioned, like the feed-in nodes. In addition to emerging markets, we also want to focus on renewable energy, and I want to draw our attention here to Brazil and to wind power. So over the past several years, Brazil has actually had an increase in the amount of investment in wind power. Why? It's because Brazil has a very large coast and a very large sea coast and a lot of dense land, which means that these are pretty ideal conditions in order to have wind power plants. Some of the things that we've been able to do within Brazil and basically bring to market are spinner anemometers, which are placed on the spinners of the wind turbines to measure speed and to measure how efficient they're being used. The second one is that we also place new coordination machines on the ground so that we can basically know which turbines to turn on and turn off, and that way we can also maximize energy production while minimizing the amount of cost that we have to use. In addition, we've also made huge investments in HVDC cables so that we can actually connect these wind power plants to the grid. Nicole mentioned that, I think Nicole or Sunny mentioned that when you have wind power and solar power being produced, they cannot be stored very easily. So it's very important to be able to streamline this into the grid, and that way you can actually use them as opposed to losing most of them over time. In addition, one thing that we notice is that in terms of the wind turbines, the majority of them are owned by local farmers. So as you can see here in others part, 42% of the wind turbines are actually owned by non-corporate entities. And what this means is that we can actually have an opportunity to not only own, but to not only lease, but also acquire these properties so that we can better harness them and use our automation systems to connect them to the greater electrical grid. We've already conducted a number of projects that have really shown our strong presence in this market. Here we want to talk about two of them. The first one is that we connected the Cerro Azul plant to a temporary power plant while the newer power plant was being fixed. This shows that we're very strong in the transmission business. The second one is that we corrected the power factor at the FISA wind power plant, and this means that we can also deal with the processes that come along with the complexities that relate to electrical generation and bringing that to the consumer. And I think that's it. But thank you so much for your time. Now we'd be more than happy to take any questions that you guys have. Thank you.